Hey there, folks. If you want to stay on top of the latest weather updates and never miss an important alert, make sure to follow SkyAlert USA. And don't forget to support us by subscribing, liking, and dropping a comment. We really appreciate it. SkyAlert USA Weather Report. Major weather events across the United States and Canada, January 3rd, 2026. Breaking. Polar vortex disruption brings historic cold and dangerous conditions. Good day, this is SkyAlert USA bringing you the latest critical weather updates for the United States and Canada on this Friday, January 3rd, 2026. We are currently witnessing one of the most significant winter weather patterns in recent memory, with the disrupted polar vortex unleashing Arctic conditions across vast regions of North America. Multiple weather alerts remain in effect from coast to coast, and the situation is expected to intensify further as we head into the coming days. As we begin the first full weekend of 2026, North America finds itself in the midst of what meteorologists are calling a high-impact winter weather event. The catalyst for this extreme weather is a phenomenon known as stratospheric warming, which has disrupted the polar vortex and sent Arctic air masses plunging southward across the continent. This is not your typical winter cold snap. This is a major atmospheric reconfiguration that will have far-reaching consequences for millions of people. The polar vortex, typically a stable circulation of cold air confined to the Arctic region, has split and weakened dramatically. What makes this event particularly concerning is that one of its cold cores has detached and is now positioned directly over eastern North America. This setup acts like a refrigerator door left wide open, allowing frigid Arctic air to pour southward with little resistance. Temperature anomalies of 20 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit below normal are being recorded across multiple states and provinces, with wind chill values reaching life-threatening levels in many areas. The past few days have seen the development and passage of what meteorologists classify as a bomb cyclone, a rapidly intensifying low-pressure system that underwent explosive strengthening over the Great Lakes region. This storm, dubbed Winter Storm Ezra, has left an indelible mark across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, bringing blizzard conditions that rivaled some of the worst storms in recent memory. The numbers tell a sobering story. At Mount Arvin, Michigan, a staggering 27.5 inches of snow fell, while Marquette, Michigan, found itself buried under nearly 2 feet of snow. The storm's central pressure plummeted to approximately 975 millibars, creating a pressure gradient so intense that wind gusts exceeded 70 miles per hour in exposed areas. These hurricane-force winds, combined with heavy snowfall, created whiteout conditions that made travel not just difficult, but in many cases, impossible. The bomb cyclone earned its dramatic name by meeting the meteorological criteria of dropping at least 24 millibars in pressure over a 24-hour period. This rapid intensification occurred as Arctic air from Canada collided with mild, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, creating a perfect storm scenario. The clash of these air masses generated not only heavy snow, but also a complex mix of precipitation types, including freezing rain, sleet, and even severe thunderstorms across the southern portions of the storm system. Perhaps most dramatically, the storm generated a rare meteorological phenomenon known as a seiche on Lake Erie. This is when strong winds literally push water from one side of a lake to the other, creating dramatic water level changes and exposing lake beds. The storm's powerful westerly winds revealed an astounding 656 feet of Lake Erie's lake bed, while simultaneously battering the eastern shores with towering waves that encased trees, lighthouses, and even vehicles in thick layers of ice. Our neighbours to the north are experiencing some of the most severe winter conditions seen in years. Environment Canada issued weather alerts in nearly every province and territory as we entered 2026, a testament to the widespread nature of this Arctic outbreak. The scope of these warnings spans from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and from the United States border to the Arctic Circle. In Ontario, the situation remains critical, with multiple types of alerts in effect. Snow squall warnings continue for regions around the Great Lakes, where lake-effect snow bands are producing snowfall rates exceeding 3 inches per hour. These intense snow bands create localized but devastating impacts, with visibility dropping to near zero in minutes and snow accumulations varying dramatically over short distances. The areas north of Toronto, including Newmarket, Aurora, Georgina and Uxbridge, are under particular threat from freezing rain, with predictions calling for 5 to 10 millimeters of ice accretion. This level of icing has the potential to snap power lines and tree branches, leading to widespread power outages. The extreme cold warnings across northwestern Ontario paint an even more dire picture. Wind chill values are approaching -40 degrees Celsius, creating conditions where frostbite can develop on exposed skin within just minutes. Emergency officials are urging residents to limit outdoor exposure and to bring pets indoors, as these temperatures are dangerous not just for humans, but for all living creatures. Quebec faces its own set of challenges, with winter storm and blizzard warnings affecting multiple regions. The Gaspé Peninsula is experiencing particularly severe conditions, with forecasts calling for 15 to 40 centimeters of snow, accompanied by wind gusts reaching 90 kilometers per hour. The combination of heavy snow and high winds is creating complete whiteout conditions, making travel extremely hazardous. The maritime provinces are not being spared. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia are under snowfall warnings, with some areas expecting up to 20 centimeters of accumulation. In Newfoundland and Labrador, Channel Port aux Basques faces wind warnings, with gusts potentially reaching 120 kilometers per hour. These winds are strong enough to cause structural damage and make any outdoor activity extremely dangerous. Moving westward, the prairie provinces are enduring brutal cold. Manitoba's Churchill area is under blizzard warning, while northeastern regions, including Brochet, Leaf Rapids, Lynn Lake and Pukatawagan, face extreme cold warnings with wind chills between -45 and -50 degrees Celsius. Saskatchewan's northern regions, including Cree Lake, are experiencing similar extreme cold, while southern areas deal with dense fog that reduces visibility to near zero. Alberta presents a diverse weather picture with its varied terrain. Areas north of Edmonton could see 15 to 30 centimeters of snow, while the northern regions face wind chill values of -40, with overnight lows plunging to -30 degrees Celsius. British Columbia, despite its typically milder maritime climate, is not immune, with snowfall warnings for the Peace River region and fog advisories for coastal areas including Vancouver and Nanaimo. In the far north, Yukon Territory faces extreme cold warnings, with temperatures dropping near -50 degrees Celsius. These are conditions that challenge even the hardiest residents and require extreme precautions to prevent frostbite and hypothermia. United States, from the Great Lakes to the southeast. The impact of this weather pattern on the United States has been equally severe and far-reaching. The bomb cyclone's passage left more than 127,000 customers without power as of Tuesday morning, with Michigan accounting for more than a third of those outages. The combination of heavy snow, ice accumulation and high winds proved too much for electrical infrastructure in many areas. The Great Lakes region bore the brunt of the initial impact. Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee and Minneapolis all experienced significant disruptions, with blizzard conditions making travel nearly impossible during the height of the storm. Interstate highways saw closures spanning hundreds of miles, with Iowa reporting that over 200 miles of Interstate 35 remained closed even after the initial storm passage due to continued blowing snow. The temperature swings have been nothing short of remarkable. St. Louis experienced one of its most dramatic temperature crashes on record, with the mercury plummeting from 77 degrees Fahrenheit at 3 in the afternoon to just 22 degrees by midnight. By morning, temperatures had dropped to 15 degrees. This represented the largest calendar day high and low temperature difference ever recorded in St. Louis for the month of December. The Northeast faced a particularly complex and dangerous mix of precipitation. While the western portions dealt with heavy snow and blizzard conditions, a zone of freezing rain developed from northern Pennsylvania through upstate New York and into New England. Ice accumulations were significant, with Springfield, New Hampshire recording more than half an inch of ice, while Newark, Vermont saw half an inch, and Freiburg, Maine accumulated over 4/10 of an inch. These accumulations are more than sufficient to bring down power lines and tree branches, and indeed widespread power outages resulted. The temperature contrast across the eastern seaboard on Monday afternoon illustrated the sharp boundary between air masses. In North Carolina, Boone recorded 27 degrees Fahrenheit on the cold side of the front, while Kinston, still ahead of the front, enjoyed 72 degrees. This 45-degree temperature difference across a single state exemplified the dramatic nature of this Arctic outbreak. 3-day forecast. What lies ahead? As we look forward to the next 72 hours, the pattern shows little sign of relenting. In fact, several indicators suggest that conditions may intensify further, particularly across the northern tier of states and throughout Canada. Saturday, January 4th. The cold intensifies. Saturday will see the Arctic air mass continue to strengthen its grip on the eastern two-thirds of North America. Fresh reinforcements of polar air will stream southward from central Canada, maintaining temperatures well below seasonal averages. The Great Lakes will continue to be a focal point for weather activity, with lake-effect snow bands persisting downwind of Lakes Michigan, Erie, and Ontario. For the snowbelt regions of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, expect continued periods of intense snowfall. Some areas could see an additional 15 to 30 inches of snow through the weekend as northwest winds persist across the relatively warm lake waters. These lake-effect snow bands are notoriously difficult to predict in terms of exact location, but once they set up, they can produce phenomenal snow accumulations over localized areas. Temperature-wise, Saturday will be brutally cold across the northern plains and upper Midwest. Morning lows will range from -10 to -20 degrees Fahrenheit across North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, with wind chills making it feel like -30 to -45 degrees. Even as far south as Kentucky and Tennessee, temperatures will struggle to rise above freezing during the day. Canada will see no relief, with extreme cold persisting across the prairies and expanding eastward into Ontario and Quebec. The Arctic air will be particularly entrenched, with overnight lows across southern Canada ranging from -15 to -30 degrees Celsius and much colder farther north. Sunday, January 5th. Bitter cold reaches the south. By Sunday, the full extent of this Arctic outbreak will become apparent as temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal extend well into the southern United States. Cities that typically enjoy mild January weather will face a harsh reality check. Atlanta could see morning lows in the low 20s Fahrenheit, while even northern Florida may experience temperatures dropping to near or just below freezing. The wind will be a significant factor on Sunday, with sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour across much of the eastern half of the country. These winds will make the already cold temperatures feel even more severe, with wind chills in the single digits expected across much of the mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley regions. Lake-effect snow will continue to be a concern for communities downwind of the Great Lakes. Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York, and Watertown, New York should prepare for additional heavy snowfall. Snow totals from this multi-day lake-effect event could approach or exceed 3 feet in the hardest-hit locations. A potential weather system may begin to develop across the southern plains by Sunday evening, which could bring a mix of precipitation types to the mid-south and southeast by Monday. The track and intensity of this system remain somewhat uncertain, but it bears close watching as it could bring ice and snow to areas from Arkansas and Tennessee eastward to the Carolinas and Virginia. Monday, January 6th. No warm-up in sight. Monday will mark the 4th consecutive day of well below normal temperatures for most of the eastern United States and Canada. The polar vortex core will remain positioned to support continued southward flow of Arctic air, preventing any significant moderation of temperatures. Another surge of Arctic air is expected to push through the northern plains and upper Midwest on Monday, reinforcing the cold and potentially bringing another round of snow to the Great Lakes region. This will be the latest in a series of Arctic air masses that have affected the region, and it will ensure that any snow on the ground remains frozen and that travel conditions stay challenging. For the northeast, Monday could bring another round of mixed precipitation as a disturbance moves through the region. The exact track of this system will determine whether areas see snow, sleet, freezing rain, or a combination of all three. Given that temperatures will be marginal, forecasters will be watching this closely for potential icing concerns. By Monday evening, attention will turn to the potential for yet another Arctic outbreak later in the week. Extended range forecasts continue to show a persistent pattern favourable for cold air transport into North America, suggesting that this winter onslaught is far from over. The National Weather Service and Environment Canada have emphasised that this is a dangerous weather pattern that requires serious attention and preparation. Multiple types of hazards are present simultaneously, creating a complex and evolving threat landscape. Extreme cold and wind chill pose the most immediate threat to life. Frostbite can develop on exposed skin in as little as 5 to 10 minutes when wind chills reach -40 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Hypothermia becomes a serious risk with prolonged exposure. even at less extreme temperatures. Authorities urge everyone to dress in multiple layers when going outdoors, to cover all exposed skin, and to limit time outside to the absolute minimum necessary. Travel remains extremely hazardous across wide areas. Blizzard conditions, snow squalls and ice-covered roads have led to numerous accidents and road closures. Interstate highways across Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan and other northern states have seen miles-long closures. Flight cancellations and delays continue at major airports, disrupting travel for thousands. The advice from emergency management officials is clear. If you don't absolutely need to travel, don't. And if you must travel, be prepared with emergency supplies including blankets, food, water and a fully charged cell phone. Power outages remain a significant concern, particularly in areas that experienced heavy icing or where wet snow brought down tree branches onto power lines. Utility companies are working around the clock to restore power, but in some areas repairs are hampered by ongoing severe weather. Residents in affected areas should be prepared for extended outages and should never use generators indoors or in garages, as this can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning. The combination of extreme cold and snow load is also creating dangerous conditions on roofs. Multiple roof collapses have been reported in areas that received heavy, wet snow, followed by additional accumulation. Property owners should monitor for signs of stress and consider professional snow removal if accumulations exceed 2 feet. To fully appreciate what we're experiencing, it's important to understand the role of the polar vortex in this weather pattern. The polar vortex is a large area of low pressure and cold air that typically circulates around the Earth's poles. In winter, this circulation strengthens and helps to keep Arctic air confined to high latitudes. However, when certain conditions occur in the stratosphere, the layer of atmosphere above where our weather occurs, the polar vortex can weaken or even split. This is exactly what has happened. A stratospheric warming event has disrupted the polar vortex, causing it to lose its typical compact circular shape. Instead, it has elongated and sent cold legs southward. One of these cold legs is now positioned over eastern North America, and it's acting like a conduit for Arctic air to flow southward. The stratospheric warming event saw temperatures in the mid-stratosphere rise 20 to 30 degrees Celsius above normal over the polar regions. While this represents warming high up in the atmosphere, its effect at the surface is counterintuitive. It actually leads to colder weather at mid-latitudes. This type of pattern is not unprecedented, but it is relatively rare and always significant when it occurs. Historical analogues suggest that when the polar vortex is disrupted in this manner, cold patterns can persist for several weeks. This is why forecasters are expressing concern not just about the current weather, but about the potential for extended cold through the second and third weeks of January. Extended-range forecast models continue to show a pattern favorable for below-normal temperatures across much of the United States and Canada for the remainder of January. While there may be brief periods of moderation, particularly across the western states, the overall theme appears to be one of persistent cold. The jet stream configuration supports continued northerly flow across the central and eastern portions of the continent. Low-pressure systems developing along the boundary between Arctic air and milder air to the south will bring periodic storms, likely producing snow, ice and mixed precipitation across a broad swath of the country. Specific concerns for the second half of January include the potential for multiple Alberta Clipper-type storms. These fast-moving systems originate in Western Canada and sweep southeast across the plains and Great Lakes, typically bringing modest snow accumulations, but reinforcing cold air and creating travel disruptions. Models suggest that several such systems may affect the region between January 10th and 20th. There is also increasing concern about the potential for a significant ice storm somewhere across the Ohio Valley or Mid-Atlantic region during the 2nd or 3rd week of January. When Arctic air is firmly in place at the surface and warmer air overruns it aloft, conditions become favorable for freezing rain. Given the persistent cold pattern expected, the ingredients will be in place for such an event, though the exact timing and location remain uncertain at this range. For Canada, the pattern suggests continued below-normal temperatures across the prairies and central provinces with frequent reinforcements of Arctic air. The potential for heavy lake-effect snow downwind of the Great Lakes will persist as long as the lakes remain ice-free and cold air continues to flow across them. The bottom line is clear. January 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most significant winter months in recent memory for North America. The combination of a disrupted polar vortex, favorable jet stream positioning, and ample cold air availability creates a perfect recipe for prolonged winter weather. As we navigate this challenging weather pattern, the importance of staying informed cannot be overstated. Weather conditions can change rapidly, particularly with the potential for snow squalls that can reduce visibility to zero in minutes, or for temperatures to plunge as cold fronts pass. Monitor local weather forecasts regularly and heed all warnings and advisories issued by the National Weather Service and Environment Canada. Preparation is key to staying safe during extreme winter weather. Ensure your home heating system is functioning properly and have backup heat sources available if possible. Stock up on essential supplies, including non-perishable food, water, medications and batteries. Keep your vehicle's gas tank full and carry an emergency kit with blankets, food, water and a first aid kit if you must travel. Check on elderly neighbours and family members who may be more vulnerable to cold weather impacts. This is a historic weather pattern that demands our respect and attention. The polar vortex disruption that began this event is a significant atmospheric phenomenon with far-reaching consequences. While we've seen severe winter weather before, the combination of extreme cold, heavy snow, ice and high winds affecting such a large area simultaneously makes this event particularly noteworthy. As we move through the coming days and weeks, SkyAlert USA will continue to bring you the latest weather information and forecasts. This is a developing situation, and conditions can change. Stay tuned to official sources for the most current information, and above all, stay safe out there. This has been your comprehensive weather update from SkyAlert USA, bringing you the critical information you need to stay safe during this significant winter weather event. Remember, when winter weather turns severe, your safety is the #1 priority. Don't take chances with extreme cold or hazardous travel conditions.